What up? What up? I'm Najir Chambers. I'm from Big Go Belt Media. Nathan, Scott, and John, thank you so much for your time today. Super excited to talk about your new film, Off Ramp, which has a theatrical release of September 6th and also on digital the same day. How you three doing today?
Doing
We're
great, thank
good,
you.
man.
I got a lot of questions with this one. I feel like I need to go off the deep end first with it. So I don't know when I had got exposed to the juggalos and gatherings because as a pro wrestling fan, I kind of came from it the reverse way, which kind of gave me a little bit of saving grace in the film, which is why my first question I think we need to kind of set the table with is how the word ninja is used in this film. Because as I know, because I know a little bit of the history, but some folks may hear it and they're gonna say, "Oh, that's a little bit of euphemism there," but nonetheless, again, I understand. I will obviously by saying that I know about the song and I know the song and also I know about even like the tiers of being juggalos. Like some folks are called ninjas because of like their elite status and also the belief behind it. But I'm just wondering for you all, and folks who may be coming into this film, coming into this community for the first time, how do you kind of navigate that conversation in terms of how the word ninja is being used?
Well, it's an authentic thing. That is something that Juggalos do say to each other. We want it to be as authentic to the Juggalos and represent the Juggalos as authentically as possible. From what I understand from the mythos, the where it came from for them is that it came from a movie called Ninjas in Action,
Yeah.
which was like a B movie that they really like loved, and that was one that they like. That's actually where the whole because the production company that puts on the Gathering of the Juggalos is called Ninjas in Action. And so, from what I understand, that's kind of how that they used it. I think, obviously people interpret it as a placeholder for a different word. But I think that for us, the intention was to, again, represent Juggalos as they actually are.
You know,
Very much.
somebody
Go
somebody
for it.
came up to me after a screening and really laid into me on that. And I said, I didn't know actually the mythos behind it. So I'm glad to know that to be able to say, like, no, actually, this is something completely different. But also what I said was, well, doesn't it mean something that they didn't say that word? Because there are a lot of people, white people who listen to hip hop who do say that word.
Yeah.
And it means something that they didn't, right? Like
Right.
that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I had heard pretty early in some interviews and kind of heard the backstory about how they even got into pro wrestling, and that kind of traced back into like sort of like you said, like sort of the origin behind why Ninja meant so much to them in terms of their fandom for combat sports, but also just how everything kind of got going in terms of their own career in music and the community that built around them. So, with that being said, now we really need to set the table in terms of the Juggalos because one thing about them that I have learned and loved to appreciate over the years is just how inclusive they have always been. It is a space that no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through, the outsiders, the forgotten ones, all those sorts of different things, everybody comes together and have a good time. I would love to kind of hear you all's first introduction to it. And where does your fandom stand today?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, for me, I knew about the ICP and I knew about Juggalos. Again, there was really kind of in the zeitgeist. Vice was doing a lot of exposure on them in the early
Yep.
2000s. But there was a documentary called American Juggalo that I watched that really like that first introduced me to that inclusive attitude. I was unaware of that, and I was just so touched by it. Seeing these folks who may have been maligned or misjudged or misseen, and the fact that they had found this tribe and had connected to each other in that way. And in the way I put it, I grew up in a Christian household, and but I also have seen a lot of hypocrisy in Christianity as well. And I thought, well, what a beautiful thing that these folks who may look like this and listen to this kind of music might, be more of that Christian than some Christians, more of love your brother kind of thing. And I thought that was a really beautiful idea, and that's really kind of where the whole thing came from. And I wouldn't consider myself a juggalo at the beginning of making this film, but I proudly consider myself a juggalo now.
Love it. Go for it, John and Scott.
Yeah, I'm guilty of judging juggalos as well. I mean, when I got the role, I think great, like another white piece of shit role that I always get, like this white asshole. But then you read it, and it's not that, man. There's such, in a lot of research, looking at interviews, to try to get my character right, you see how sweet they are. But even I was still judging him, even like while we were shooting the thing, because Nate told us one day, he's like, "There are going to be some real juggalos on set tonight." I'm just like, "Oh fuck!" Like that's going to make it so much harder. They're going to be going crazy, but they ended up being the sweetest, most helpful. Like, how can I help? Can I go get you guys some waters? It's just, it was like mind blowing. Like these people that look so freaky and alternative are like their way of being extreme is by like being extremely nice and helpful, which is so fucking awesome.
Yeah. Go for it, Scott.
Uh, yeah, I didn't know what juggalos were when I first got this, and when I read the script, I was like, "This is amazing! I love this." Then I started researching it, and what I could tell was just, being a member of a community that's misrepresented by the media all the time. I was like, the media is misrepresenting this community. I don't know what it's really about, but I can tell that they're misrepresenting it.
Yeah.
And then the deeper I went, I was like, man, this is so much about love, right? Like I felt as much love as I do like at a pride parade. And I was like,
Yeah.
what is happening? I love this. This is not from the demographic that I expected to experience that from, right? And then, the like exactly what Jon was saying, just like being with folks and realizing like this is so real. This is just a way that people, experience joy and show their love coming from a very difficult place most of the time, right? Like that's something I can also really vibe with. And then somebody on, now that things are going, we're out there in the culture, people are starting to see us. And I started getting these DMs that are like, are you really a juggalo? Or are you just an actor? And my response is always, I hope I'm a juggalo. That would
I
be an
love
honor,
it.
you know?
I love it. I love it. Man, this film takes you on a ride, and some of the words are kind of thrown at it in terms of how I would describe it. It's like, the film has its humor, it's raunchy at times, and even brutal at some times, but truly there's a lot of heart. And I want to target one particular scene that upon being able to check this out early and with the screener, I watched a few times because I really for one, the first lens, I kind of got the critic eyes on. The second time, I'm kind of like trying to process everything. And then I think the third time, I just really went heart to heart with it because it was a super raw scene. And this is the scene with Eden, who's played by the very talented Ashley Smith. And this was a moment where we got to see Trey and Silas really humanize, and the vulnerability from all three characters was a way that so many folks can identify with, whether you are somebody who has been a witness to somebody's story similar, or even it's your story yourself. I want to ask you three about constructing such not just a raw and very powerful scene, but an important scene, a very important scene with very important messages within it. What was the collaborative effort amongst you three to bring this scene to life?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of always knew, like everyone kind of knew, like this was like the scene, right? We kind of knew that like it really like encapsulated the themes of the movie, and that audiences would really like that we would like if we got it right, they would really feel it, and they would it would kind of really change their perspectives in a lot of ways. It's a couple things. I mean, one, it came in, comes right at the 50-minute mark. It's right at halfway through the film. So like if you get right into the 45, if you get right there, it's like, can we just get you there? Because if we can get you there to that scene, we know we are going to be there for the end. And so we all kind of knew it was very special. We had 2 days to shoot it. And I mean, I speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure, and I let them speak on it too, but it really was those 2 days were just honestly pure magic. We had such an amazing connection, all of us, including Ashley too, and all of us just like connected so well. It was just such a beautiful time. It was just a moment of creativity and similar spirit and similar vibe, and we just kind of knew it was just something we were all very, very inspired to be working on that moment, and just so blessed to be able to do so.
I'll say this about everybody who worked on the film. It was such I hate to talk about like work as family, but it was such a family environment. It was like we all felt so comfortable. They created the conditions in which we could just go there and be there with each other, be there for 2 whole days together, and just leave it all on the screen for you. It'll probably stay one of the best experiences of filming that I'll ever have.
So beautiful. Go for John.
That was my favorite day on set. So I think we could all feel it. I mean, we knew it was going to translate. There's something so simple and beautiful. It's like we got used to having a camera in the front seat and in the back seat driving this van around. This is like you guys just sit in your room, and this is all about like connection between us. And that was Ashley's first or second day on set, I think, but there was something about us just sitting there in the still, and it was just we could all feel it. I don't know what it was, but same with Scott. I go back to that day when I think of the experience of this movie, sitting in that room. We could all feel it, man. It was really, really special, and I think that translates when you watch. But those were some real feelings in there. But it also goes with what Scott said, being so comfortable with everyone on the crew, and there was no, usually you got one or two assholes on set doing something. there were zero assholes here. It was like family. You wanted to be the best for everybody. Usually you're just like, well, that sound guy's an asshole, or this guy, but everybody was just that, and that allowed us as actors to be way more comfortable. There's nothing to worry about. It's all just live in the moment, and yeah, it was beautiful.
Another department I want to make sure we give our flowers to is your hair and makeup and costume design departments, because regardless of the story being told, the themes even within the story, I mean, there's a very important part of this, and that is truly the design of a juggalo. And it's not just one, but there's multiple looks throughout the film. Can you all talk to me about sitting in the chair the first time you saw yourself? What did you think? The hair, I'm still trying to piece together the hair aspect of it, but ultimately just talk about the experience in working with this department, and then your reactions to the first time you seen yourself.
Megan Hebert, man, and Heather Rose Salvaggio, they were a dynamic duo. So yeah, one of the things we talked about this, like John and I got our hair done together very first day, and I think it was a bonding experience because John had to like shave his head underneath the, I mean, for both of us, it was like a big glow up, right? Big change. Yeah. It took 5 hours to put my hair in, and that's not something I'm used to experiencing. And then I had to stay in it for the full 20 plus days that we were there. So I was walking around New Orleans. Thankfully, it was New Orleans.
Yeah. Very normal place.
Most people were like, that's nothing, that's fine. But I learned a lot in that experience. It was amazing to walk into the world as just like a normal person and see the way that people reacted to me. Also, just from a perspective of never having had my hair done that way, talking with friends who had it done when they were kids, right? And who had to do it for school and stuff, and to realize like how, I learned how to do this, because it's so intense, and to learn that and to go like, wow, this is something that this Juggalo chose to do, but some places make you do it, and you have to experience that. It got me into character for sure. I kind of felt like it was my little antennas of Silas, 100%, but man, it makes me itchy just thinking about it. But and it's something that I kind of worry about it a little bit. It's not something that Scott Turner and Schofield would choose to do. I worry that people are going to judge that or are going to be pre-offended by it, and to understand like Juggalo culture is a really specific thing, and that's what we were doing authentically. And yeah, there are conversations to be had about what's appropriate and not appropriate. But it's just another layer in this film of something to see through to the heart of what's going on.
God, that's a beautiful answer. But John, before you get in there real quick, I just want to quickly respond to that and say, what's interesting is while this is a film of sorts, it also do sort of give you that documentary style of feeling. The narration in the beginning to kind of like explain what's kind of going on, and then obviously events happens and whatnot. So like almost like an autobiography of sorts. But like, yeah, it was a learning curve, but it also was a wild adventure with these two characters that I would just go off the limb and say, like, I would love to have more. So, I'm not sure if there's discussions with that, but we'll come back to it. But yeah, John, talk to me about first time seeing yourself.
Oh man, it's like a tool for me as an actor. Nate was hesitant. I had this long, beautiful hair. He's like, "You sure you want to cut your hair?" I was like, "Oh, dude, I want like the more drastic you can do. That's what does it to me. When I can look in the mirror and see myself in costume, like I can have read the script and my lines 100 times, which I usually do. But it's until you get in the costume that's going to be on film and see the hair, then it clicks, and I get so excited and ready to go. But with such extreme looks, I tried to like not have that influence the character. Play it straight, play it with heart, and just have the crazy look be a part of it. It was distracting at times, though, all those braids bobbing around trying to have a touching moment. But yeah, it's so crucial to the characters that I loved it, man. I love it.
It is. It was a. Oh, go
Go
ahead.
for Nathan.
I was just gonna say it was funny because I did when I first talked to John. I'm like, we were talking about the hair and stuff. I'm like, oh, we don't have to like cut your hair. And he's like, no, I want to cut my hair. He's like, I want to do this as much extreme as you can. He's like, that's good. And I was like, okay, let's go for it.
I don't know what that says about me as an actor. Maybe I suck, but that really fucking helps me when I get the costume and the hair. I want it all done.
Yeah.
Well, he showed me this picture, his like inspiration pic, and it was a guy with like 3 thick braids coming out like this. So that's what I thought was going to happen. And then 5 hours later, I was like, this is not what you said, but okay.
You made it your own.
That's right. All right, who wrote the raps?
Nate.
It was myself and our co-writer Tim Cairo. I'll actually say that Tim actually had probably a little bit more to do with some of the raps. It was definitely collaborative, but a lot of them Tim was like even more like instrumental in the raps, and so I give him the credit for that.
Tim's a big hip hop guy, and he's also a psycho. So yeah, most of those lines were him, I think.
Things I'm learning about Tim. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey Nate, what other type of blessings did you get from the Juggalo community with this project?
I mean, God, a lot. I mean, first of all, the carnival provides, that's a phrase that I didn't even know before I went to the gathering in 21. And when I went to the gathering in 21, I think the truth is that I got to know a bunch of juggalos, and they saw that I was trying to do something like genuine, and they could tell that my heart was real and was in this, and that I wasn't trying to be exploitative or to try to take advantage of something. That I was like, no, that I see the beauty in what you have, what you all have together, and I just want to share that and put my own spin on it and help, because to me it seems something that is a way to help the rest of the world see how beautiful it can be if you just put down your biases and accept people and look past what the book, the cover of the book is. As far as like actual things, I mean, we have a number of juggalos and Jugga-famous folks who are big fans of the films and have contributed. I mean, we have multiple songs from Ouija Mac. I was actually at the gathering, got a chance to speak to Ouija Mac, who saw the film, and he was a big fan. And we have a lot of people that are very, very, when I was at the gathering, I was handing out stickers, and people were like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this film. And some of them have seen it at Chattanooga, and they just said thank you for doing that, for trying to really trying to represent them in an honest way, and to tell a story that showed them in the light that they see themselves in. And so, yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, there's a big list. The truth of the matter is, I can tell you that some of the juggalos who I met and who became my friends and consulted me on the film and are in the film have become some of my close friends in real life. And I can say that after this film, there was after anything like this, there were some low points, and I had a pretty low point, and one of my friends, Jimmy Soda, he would just constantly reach out to me and be like, "You doing okay, man? Just checking in." Or just nobody checked in on me nearly as much as Jimmy did, and it's really honestly like something that was just so touching, and so just constantly blessed. I think that again, the fact that we were trying to do something honest and real and good. I think we gave to the carnival, and the carnival gave back to us.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna be clipping all these parts, and that's really beautiful.
That was good, man.
I feel bad having to even say anything else after that, but truly, yeah, I just want you to know, and you all to know, like, yeah, this was a very good film. I went in not knowing what to expect. Think I quickly got a little synopsis, and again, I had a little bit of I had already let the guard down a little bit previously, but even if I had not, it's one of those type of films that I always encourage folks, especially an independent scene, to like always give it a try. Like you never know. There's so many diamonds in the rough that doesn't get the major marketing. Sometimes it doesn't even get the theatrical releases and so on, and you end up coming out on the other side like, God damn, I'm glad I spent that hour and 30 minutes or whatever checking it out. You feel a just like a new refreshing view on life now. And as you said, John, earlier, like the perception of the Juggalos definitely has its stigma, but I think for sure this will be one of those type of projects that change a lot of hearts. Now, the fan in me now says, where is Trey and Silas doing next? Mr. Nate, what are we going to do next with this world? Because I know I'm just one person, but I could imagine that the whole community wants you back working. Have you thought anything beyond this point?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've had some discussions. We have some thoughts about it. I'll say that. Yeah, we won't say too much, but we'll say that, the more folks see the movie, the more likely it is that we would make another one. So, please see it and check it out. I don't intend to only make off-ramp movies or only Juggalo movies, but I will say, I will say that I will say that I will say that I love these characters so much that I would not mind spending more years with them. We have some ideas. So we'll see what happens, and we'd love to expand on the Trey and Silas, the Blood Wolf clan, and see what else they can do.
Hey, I also want to say last other thing, in terms of departments, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the music. I know how much and how important music is to you personally and even to your career. You mentioned some of the original music you have for it, but even the score also played a very important part into this. I'm sure if there's anything that you wanted to ensure what was done right in this film had to be that. I want to tap your mind a little bit about how you wanted to use the score in this and also bring it in the soundtrack to really give a story in its own, just on that note.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, music is a huge part of what I do, and always will be. Also, too, because this is a movie about people who are music fans, so it's really important that that's a big part of it. But I knew that I wanted the score to sort of contrast the rap and the things. Like I wanted it to have a number of feelings. And it was also, I wasn't the original intention to have as much heavy metal, but that seemed to work so well, and I was really interested in that, and so that all worked. But the score was all done by a really brilliant musician down here in New Orleans named Rick Nelson, who I've worked with on a couple of things on my short film that he did a lot of great music for. He's part of the Afghan Wigs and a number of a Polyphonic Spree. And the music is actually really mostly inspired by an Aphex Twin album called Drugs. And half of Drugs is like this very dissonant, loud, like Aphex Twin stuff, and half of it is this like really organic, sort of interesting, sort of beautiful, melancholy kind of stuff. And that was the stuff that as I was editing it, I always knew that was what I wanted, and so I just started kind of like working that in, and I just kind of gave it to Rick and was like, "Hey, man, here, this is the kind of like thing I'm thinking of," and he really brought it to another level. Also, like just the thing like the Miracles cover at the end of the movie. I knew I wanted to do. I saw this YouTube video of a couple doing a ukulele cover of Miracles, and I just thought it was so beautiful and touching. And like, it's like it's actually a really beautiful song as much as it gets like made fun of and stuff. I think it really is a beautiful song with a really great message. And I was like, "Hey, Rick, here, let's do a ukulele version of the song." He's like, "I never played a ukulele before." And I was like, "Okay." And then like 6 hours later, he's like, "Here's the version." I went out and got a ukulele and taught myself how to play it. And I'm like, "You are a genius, man. What are you doing?"
John, I'm not going to disrespect you in your career as well, too, Mr. Professional Drummer. So I want to also hear about your take on the music for this.
Yeah, I try not to worry about it because that's not my job as an actor. But when the movie's done, I always hope there's good music. And Nate, being such a music guy in his own right, I listened to his beats and everything before when we started becoming friends before we shot. So I knew it was in good hands. I was never worried at all. But yeah, when you hear it, it's like it's so cinematic. The strings that Rick does, it's just music's big for me when I watch a movie. So I always want it to be good in the movies that I'm in, and I think he knocked it out of the park.
I really want to take this last quick moment to say what you bring to the set is very important. You've worked on so many sets as a coordinator, and I know that, as a coordinator to ensure that inclusivity and diversity and representation is being handled properly. I don't know if there's officially a title for this, and I know it may just be a subsidiary of something else, but this important role that ensure that characters are handled properly. Can you talk about what is this? What does this consist of? And when you're brought on as sort of a consultant, sort of how do you kind of navigate this?
Yeah. Well, I guess consultant is part of it, and it really depends on how much I do. So what I was really appreciative of and proud of was, Nate and Tim were so receptive, right? They were so generous. They asked me, can you take a look at this? And there was like one scene that I felt really strongly about. We kind of went back and forth about it, and it turned out really, really well. And because of that, like artistic intervention to it, they honored me with a co-producer title, and it very much is and can be a producing a role. Consulting is where you're sort of just, yeah, that's fine, we'll do this or don't do this or make sure, blah, blah, blah. And we had other consultants, we had Juggalo consultants, right, who helped. But when you start to really get into it and start really shaping the character or the way that the story is told, that becomes more of a producer role. And that's something that I love being able to do. And I especially love it. I've done it on many sets with many different kinds of directors and writers, many of whom have not been as gracious as Nate and Tim were. There are a lot of people who are like, don't tell me how to tell my story. You're lucky to even be in this story. You're lucky we're telling this story, that kind of attitude. And I'm starting to see that's the old way. You know what I mean? Many of the sets that I'm going to, many of the stories that I'm working on now, people are like, no, please, we want to do this right. We want to make sure that we're telling the best story that we can. And I love that that's what's coming in through Hollywood now.
We just to touch on that too. I mean, it was very important to us that whoever was Silas was going to contribute, because we said, well, this is something that we're like, we know what we want to say, but we want to make sure we're saying it right. And that, Scott, it's like there was this one scene and it was very hard for me to like let go of it just because it had been there from the beginning. But in the end, he was totally right. His perspective was like he educated us to the perspective and how it would be perceived. And we said, oh, you know what? We don't want that. We definitely do not want to exclude anyone, and we definitely don't want that to happen. And in the end, now that scene, it became something else and is infinitely better than what we had initially, because again, we worked together and we collaborated and created something that was, fulfilled both intentions, which is infinitely better.
I really appreciate that. Scott and Nate, thank you so much for your time. I swear we could continue to talk so much more, but I got to let folks go because I got to get to the theater September 6th off ramp and on digital as well. I was go see this in theaters, go see it with a group of folks. This is one of those type of films that certainly will have you on edge. You're going to go on a roller coaster of things, some laughs or brutality, as I said, but also a lot of heart. But I really appreciate the time talking about this and much success. And we'll be back for Off the Ramps or Off Ramp 2. I don't know. I'm pitching ideas, but one of them, we'll figure it out when we get to it.
That's right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. Such a joy.
Absolutely. Take care.